as an aside, having nothing to do with the talk tonight, but I see people come to the Western Wall area, the Wailing Wall area, and because I live here, so I'm a dual citizen. I'm an Israeli and an American. Thank God we have 5 kids here. 2 of my boys are in the Israeli army at the moment. They're both officers. I'd rather have them in college, but that's the reality at the moment. One is stationed in Beit Shalom, the other's in the northern part of the country. And, you come to the Western Wall area, and you hear a dozen different languages. It's like the prophets are coming alive. You hear Oriental languages and African language and North American languages and South American. I mean, every place in the world is represented here. It's just an extraordinary fact. And yet to think about it, and again, I apologize because this has nothing. You probably heard this from Zola, maybe. I apologize for just going off on this. But what does Jerusalem have? There's no oil. There's no uranium. We got to pump the water in. They have water shortage. There's no water. There's no gold or anything underneath it. It's just a hill. And everyone in the world wants it. It's just amazing. That's what Moses is saying. The 6 days of Genesis, that's the creation. Then he says, consider the flow from generation to generation. Consider the generations of humanity. The fact that everyone is still coming to Jerusalem is like, how much of a demonstration do you want? That there's something special going on in this city. Okay, back to the reality of the talk, however. 6 days. So we have 6 days of Genesis going forward, and we want to look at it and try to understand it. So to do that, we have to look deeper into the text and try to understand how the words flow. So some of this I will say with tongue-in-cheek, but I hope you'll take it as that and see how it develops as we go along. As we read through the text, many things are happening, and then the flow of the information is always locked into the end of the day. There was evening and there was morning, day 1. Everyone is probably familiar with that. He editor evoker. There was evening and morning, day 1. More things are happening. There's evening and morning, a second day. More things happen. I apologize, my book is highly annotated because it's annotated by me. Evening and morning, a third day. More things happening, evening and morning, a fourth day. Each day is marked by there's evening and morning. But if you ever happen to notice an amazing phenomena, evening and morning, day 1, evening and morning, a second day, evening and morning, a third day, you come to the 4th day. Does anyone recall what happens on the 4th day? I see someone with the text over there. What happens on the 4th day? The sun. Yeah, the sun. A little embarrassing, huh? Evening and morning, day 1, evening and morning, a second day, evening and morning, a third day, the 4th day comes the sun. Pretend we don't think that God wrote the Bible, okay? Well, pretend there's like a bunch of Bedouins sitting around and say, oh gosh, you get up to day 4, I forgot the sun. Oh, I forgot the sun. That's what the text says, right? There's evening and morning, and the sun comes on day 4. Good grief, I forgot the sun. What am I going to do? Well, see, it wouldn't be a problem in 1998, right? Because what would you write the Bible on? A word processor, right? You get to day 4, I forgot the sun. What do? Type in the sun, cut it, and paste it, right? Windows 95, no problem. See, but when Moses came down from the mountain, he wasn't carrying a CD-ROM on his back. He was carrying stones. See, in those days, they work in stone. And you get to day 4, and you forgot the sun, you got a real problem. You just start chiseling from day 1 again. That's a lot of work. We're stuck with the sun on day 4. I hope no one thinks that that's the reason why the sun is mentioned on day 4. But that's what the text does say, right? And a lot of silly people say, oh, see how silly the Bible, and the author couldn't even get that right. Well, my friends, it's been a bestseller for thousands of years. So one thing we know, even if you meet a skeptic and he says the Bible is a myth, you can tell him, but it's been a bestseller for 3,000 years. The author wasn't dumb. That's for certain, okay? You don't make a bestseller by being foolish. We don't have that mindset, fortunately. We realize the source of the Bible. So then why would it tell us that the sun's on day 4 if there's evening and morning for the first 3 days? And the text understands that. Because the Hebrew really doesn't say there was evening and there was morning. This Hebrew says there was Erev, there was Erev and there was Boker. Erev has a derived meaning of evening. Ayin, Resh, Beit. There are 3 Hebrew letters that spell evening. Ayin, Resh, Beit. Erev, evening. The root meaning is chaos. That's why evening, twilight, is called Erev. Because when the sun goes down, what happens to vision? It becomes chaotic, right? Blurry. That's why you don't walk along the edge of the road in the evening time. The car might not see you. And Boker, morning, Beit, Kuf, Resh. morning, is called morning because the root of that is orderly. Amazing, huh? Suddenly a whole new meaning comes out of the text. All that time that you might or might not have wondered, why does the sun show up on day 4 when I have evening and morning for the first 3 days, is because the text is telling you something much deeper. Then there was sunlight, and then there was sunset and sunrise. There was disorder and order, and the Torah wants you to be amazed at this fact, amazed at it. It wants you to see that you start off with a world that was unformed and void. The Hebrew is tohu vavohu. Chaotic is the Hebrew translation of the word. It was chaos. The text tells you it was chaos. Science tells you it was chaos. And gradually, day by day, out of this chaos came the symphony of life we call humanity. The subtle language of the Bible. Out of a disorderly system came the orderly system of life itself. And that had to have a guide. Now, much of the guide is built into the universe. The creation, when the Lord created the universe, we get, from the physical aspects, we get 4 things: time, space, matter, and the laws of nature. And these guide the world. These guide the world in a way that is, to think that the tuning of the universe can be by chance is beyond, it's just beyond possibility. I had the good fortune of meeting once and corresponding a bit with a physicist in the Nobel Prize winner, Steven Weinberg. He's at the University of Texas in Austin. Okay, and he is a very strong supporter of Israel, but he feels that the Bible is myth. Okay, a myth. But by his own words, he says that in writing, the Scientific American, October 1994, that the universe is tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 120th. Had the energy of the Big Bang been different, which means that is a 1 with 120 zeros after it. I'm going to take about 30 seconds to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Well, that's 20. That means I have to have like 60 rows of this, right? 20 times. I'm going to have 6 rows of this. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. O, O, O. Okay, these are all O's, right? This whole row. O. But if this had been, not this, but this, and the last O had been a 1, we would not be here today. The universe either would have expanded so rapidly, there would have been no time for galaxies to form, or the universe would have collapsed after 1,000,000 years, and 1,000,000 years is enough time to make galaxies. Just 1 added on to this vast line of zeros, 120 zeros, there's no life. It's all over. The universe is tuned for life. And so when we take a trip, for instance, to the Dead Sea, now relating back to the order and the chaos, and you go down to the Dead Sea and you meet a skeptic and say, the guy Schroeder, the Zola Levitt brought you to hear this guy Schroeder speak to you, he tells you can't get order randomly, and he pulls out of the Dead Sea, the salt sea, the lowest place on earth, a salt crystal. He says, look at that on the microscope, and you see this beautiful, beautiful crystal. He said, that crystal formed randomly. What are you telling me it didn't form? Did the salt crystal, this gorgeous crystal, form randomly? Not by chance. The forces that work on the sodium and on the chlorine force it. If anything isn't random, it's a crystal. It's forced to line up in this phenomenal, beautiful shape that everyone finds such great beauty in. And there's no randomness at all. If you find order in the world, it means that something is ordering the system. We are built into the universe from before day 1. And that's essentially the reality of the world. So we have evening and morning, and we move forward, and then the text discusses now day by day what's happening. So we're told here there's evening and morning, day 1. Does anyone have other English translations here this evening? Because if it's quite crucial to remember how the text, the Hebrew is exact. As I mentioned, those Dead Sea Scrolls don't have a letter changed. And the end of the Hebrew word is vihi eder vivoker. There's evening and morning. Yom echad. Yom means day. Echad means 1. It doesn't mean first. There are many English translations that say there is evening and morning a first day. But the text is explicit. It is day 1. The next day says the evening and morning a second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, the 6th day. So it can be understood why a translator would write a first day, trying to make the text reader friendly. So it shouldn't seem too jarring in the flow of the language.